When she walks away, your world feels like it's collapsing. The air feels heavier. The silence in your phone feels louder. You keep replaying the moments, trying to find the exact second she began slipping away. Here's what you need to understand. Her leaving wasn't the end. It was the test. And how you behave now will determine everything. Most men make one mistake. After a breakup, they react from panic. They chase, they beg, they cry in the digital streets of her inbox. They think that constant reminders of their pain will somehow pull her heart back. But that is the exact thing that pushes her further away. Attraction doesn't return through desperation. It returns through power. When a woman leaves, she's watching. Even if she never calls, even if she's blocked you, she's quietly observing the energy you put out into the world. If she sees you crumbling, she confirms her decision. If she sees you growing, she starts questioning it. You must become the man she cannot ignore. Not because you're trying to impress her, but because you've stepped into the version of yourself that doesn't need her to survive, yet is powerful enough to inspire her to want to return. This isn't about games. This is about value. And value is not begged for. It is built. When she comes back, and believe me, if you do this right, look, she will, your energy, she should see in her words, she should see in your eyes that you've been fine without her, that your life expanded without her presence, and that letting her back in would be a choice, not a rescue mission. You don't punish her, you don't guilt her. You simply live in such a way that makes her think, how did I let this man go? That's how you win her back and keep her, by chasing her heart, but by becoming the man she never should have left. When the person you love walks away, it feels like the ground beneath you disappears. Your heart races, your mind spins, and the urge to act immediately takes over. That's the trap. In the chaos of emotion, your instinct might scream at you to do something, anything to stop her from slipping away completely. You want to call her, text her, send long emotional messages explaining how much she means to you, apologizing for things you don't even fully understand, promising to change overnight. You want to prove your worth in those moments by pouring out everything you have left. But what you don't realize is that these impulses are not a sign of strength. They're a symptom of losing control over yourself. And when you lose control over yourself, you lose the very thing that made you attractive to her in the first place. The truth is, attraction is not born from desperation, and it certainly doesn't grow in a place where one person is pleading while the other place where the other is pulling away. Think about it. When you met her, you weren't begging for her attention every second. You had your own life, your own rhythm, your own value. You weren't chasing her out of fear. You were moving in your power, and she was drawn to that. Now, in the heat of heartbreak, your mind is telling you to abandon that power in exchange for short-term relief, but that short-term relief comes at a cost. You hand over your dignity, your self-respect, and your ability to rebuild attraction. Controlling your emotional response starts with one clear decision. You will not let your temporary pain dictate permanent actions. This doesn't mean pretending you're not hurting. It means choosing to process your pain in private, not in front of her, not in a way that broadcasts your collapse. Cry if you need to, scream into a pillow if you must, talk to a trusted friend or write it out in a journal. Do whatever it takes to release that raw pain, but do it without making her the audience. The moment she sees you unravel for her approval, she subconsciously confirms that she made the right choice in leaving. Your emotions in this moment are intense, but they are also temporary. The rush of panic, the ache in your chest, the sleepless nights, they will pass, and when they do, you don't want to look back and realize you acted in ways that made you feel ashamed. That's why the very first thing you need to do is slow down, give yourself the space to think. Before you send that message, before you call, before you try to explain everything, ask yourself, is this action coming from power or is it coming from fear? If it's coming from fear, it will only push her further away. The most powerful thing you can do right now is become a master of your own state. It's not about ignoring your feelings. It's about refusing to let them drive the car. When you act out of control, you give her the image of a man who cannot stand on his own. When you act from composure, so you show her something entirely different, a man who values himself enough to handle loss with dignity. And that image is far more compelling than any desperate plea could ever be. People often mistake control for coldness, but that's not what this is about. Control is not shutting down or pretending you don't care. It's the art of responding instead of reacting. When you react, you throw out words and actions without thought, hoping they will fix the situation. When you respond, you take time to understand what's really happening, and you choose your moves deliberately. That choice, the pause, the patience, is what separates the men who win respect from the men who are forgotten. Remember, the woman who left is not judging you by how much you miss her. She's judging you by how you handle missing her. If she sees that you can hold yourself together, that you can still stand tall despite the storm inside you, she will remember why she was drawn to you in the first place. But if she sees that you crumble the second she steps away, she will see you differently, not as a man she can rely on, as a man whose emotional stability depends on her presence. Your ability to control your emotional response isn't just about winning her back. It's about winning yourself back. It's about proving to yourself that you are capable of standing in the middle of the storm without losing the ground beneath your feet. Because if you can master yourself here in the hardest moment, then no matter what happens, you will walk out stronger, wiser, and more powerful than before. And that strength will speak louder to her than any words you could say. When someone you love leaves, it can feel like your entire identity was built around that relationship. And now that it's gone, you're left with empty space you don't know how to fill. Most people respond by obsessing over how to get that person back, putting their life on pause and pouring all their energy into thinking, talking, and worrying about them. That is exactly the opposite of what will make them reconsider their decision. The reality is nothing reignites attraction faster than seeing someone grow into a version of themselves that is undeniably magnetic. This is why elevating your life during this period is not just important, it's essential. It shifts the dynamic completely. It takes the focus off trying to win her back and puts it on something far more powerful. Becoming the kind of man she would regret losing. Elevation begins with your health. When you take care of your body, it's not just about appearance, it's about energy, confidence, and self-respect. When you start eating better, exercising regularly, and treating your body like it matters, people notice, not because you tell them, but because it shows in the way you carry yourself. Your posture changes, your face looks more alive, and your presence feels different. You are no longer moving through the world with the heaviness of loss, but with the vitality of someone who is building something. That energy is attractive in a way that words can't replicate. Next, your finances and career. Nothing communicates self-worth more than a man who is focused on his mission. When you take the pain of loss and channel it into your work, your projects, your skills, you create momentum in your life. You start achieving things that have nothing to do with her, and that independence becomes powerful. It tells the world and her that you are not waiting for someone to save you, that you are the kind of man who creates his own opportunities. This doesn't mean working yourself to exhaustion just to prove a point, but it does mean setting goals and making consistent progress towards them. Even small wins build confidence, and confidence builds attraction. Your social circle also matters more than you might think. After a breakup, many people isolate themselves thinking they need to heal alone. While solitude has its place, surrounding yourself with people who inspire, challenge, and support you is equally important. Being socially active shows that you are not dependent on one person for your happiness. Go out, reconnect with old friends, make new ones, attend events, explore new environments. The more you engage with life, the more your world expands, and the more you start to feel like you're not just recovering from a breakup. You're building a better life than you had before. Mindset is the silent foundation of all this growth. If you're doing all these things, but your inner dialogue is still filled with doubt, bitterness, or fear, your progress will be limited. Elevating your life is not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely shifting your focus from what you lost to what you're gaining. So this requires you to monitor your thoughts and challenge the ones that keep you stuck. I can't believe she left with, I can't believe how much stronger I'm becoming. Replace, I'm nothing without her, with, I'm more than I ever realized. Over time, mental shift becomes your reality, and people, including her, will feel that change in you. One of the most underrated parts of elevating your life is embracing new experiences. Comfort zones shrink after heartbreak because you instinctively want to avoid anything unfamiliar or risky. But every time you push yourself into something new, whether it's learning a skill, looks, traveling somewhere different, or trying an activity you've never considered, you remind yourself that life is bigger than one relationship. And the more you explore, more you discover parts of yourself you didn't know existed. This not only makes you more interesting to others, but also deepens your own sense of self. Beauty of this process is that you stop living reactively, responding only to what she does or doesn't do. Instead, you begin living proactively, driven by your own vision for your life. You stop asking, will make her want me back? And start asking, what will make me proud of myself? That shift changes everything, because when you elevate your life to the point where you are genuinely fulfilled, whether she returns or not becomes less important. You'll still have your growth, your achievements, your expanded sense of self-worth. And ironically, that's the exact moment when she's most likely to notice the difference and feel the pullback towards you. When you elevate your life after she's gone, you send a message without saying a word. You are not just surviving, you are thriving. You're showing that your value doesn't come from who chooses to stay, but from the man you choose to become. And that version of you will always have more power, confidence, and more magnetic pull than the man who waits around hoping for permission to live again. Silence is one of the most underestimated tools you have after someone walks away from your life. Most people are terrified of it. They feel the gap and rush to fill it with words, calls, and messages, hoping that constant reminders of their presence will keep the connection alive. But the truth is, silence paired with growth is far more powerful than any speech you could deliver. It creates space for curiosity, reflection, and doubt to grow in the other person's mind. When you don't rush to explain yourself, when you don't fight for constant contact, you project an unspoken message. You are strong enough to stand on your own. Projecting strength in silence doesn't mean you're ignoring her to play games. It means you've chosen to stop making her the center of your attention and energy. It's about reclaiming your emotional focus and allowing her to experience the reality of your absence. People only appreciate presence when they can feel the contrast of its loss. If you keep giving access, if you keep responding immediately, if you keep putting yourself in front of her, she never has to feel that contrast. Your silence allows her to notice the space you once filled, and that awareness is essential if she's ever going to reconsider her decision. When you're silent, she may wonder at first if you're angry or hurt. Over time, though, she starts to wonder something far more powerful. Why isn't he chasing me? Why isn't he trying to get me back? That question plants the seed of doubt about whether she truly understood your worth. In her mind, if you were as dependent on her as she thought, you'd be falling apart. Your silence tells a different story. It suggests that you are doing just fine without her, maybe even better. And that is what makes her curious again. The key to making silence powerful is what you do with it. If you simply cut off communication but spend your days obsessing over her, checking her social media, or secretly hoping she'll notice your absence, you're not truly silent, you're just holding your breath. Look, real strength in silence comes when you redirect your energy into yourself and your life. It's about living in such a way that even if she doesn't see you directly, she hears about your growth, feels your energy shift, and senses that your world is moving forward without her. Silence so gives you the space to regain control over your emotions. Every time you resist the urge to send a message, you're strengthening your self-discipline. Every time you choose not to react to a post, you're building resilience. This self-control is attractive not just to her, but to everyone who interacts with you. People respect those who don't act out of desperation. They admire those who can hold their own ground without chasing validation. Another layer to this is that silence forces both of you to confront the reality of the situation. For her, it's realizing that she doesn't have unlimited access to you anymore. For you, it's learning to live without constant reassurance from her. This mutual adjustment creates a healthier foundation if there's ever a chance of reconnecting. Because when she comes back, it won't be to the same dynamic she left. It will be to a stronger, more grounded version of you. The challenge, of course, is that silence can be uncomfortable at first. You'll have moments where you want to break it, where the urge to reach out feels almost unbearable. But those are the exact moments when silence matters most. They are opportunities to prove to yourself that you are in control, not your impulses. The longer you maintain it, the easier it becomes. And the more you realize that your worth was never tied to her immediate response anyway. Silence also gives you the gift of perspective. Without the constant back and forth, without the emotional highs and lows of communication, you can think more clearly about the relationship, about her, and about what you truly want moving forward. Sometimes the silence will reveal that you don't even want the same things anymore. Other times, it will make you see her with a new clarity that fuels your growth. Either way, it ensures that when you act, it's deliberate, not reactive. When used with intention, silence is not about pushing someone away. It's about allowing them to feel the weight of your absence while you focus on becoming the best version of yourself. It's not passive, it's active in its restraint. It communicates a quiet confidence that says, I don't need to chase you to prove my worth. And that kind of confidence speaks louder than any words ever could. When someone leaves you, it's easy to obsess over what went wrong and replay every detail in your head, thinking that if you could just fix those moments, things would be different. But the truth is, the version of you she walked away from is not the version that will bring her back. If you try to reconnect as the same man she left, the result will be the same. This is why redefining your value is essential. It's not about proving her wrong or trying to convince her to change her mind. It's about becoming a man who naturally commands respect, attraction, and admiration, whether she's in the picture or not. Redefining your value starts with understanding that your worth doesn't depend on her approval. Too often, men make the mistake of placing a woman's opinion above their own self-perception. They see themselves as good enough only when she validates them. This mindset makes you powerless because it puts your entire sense of worth in someone else's hands. When you reclaim that power, when you decide that your value is intrinsic and not negotiable, everything about the way you carry yourself changes. You stop chasing acceptance and start living in a way that reflects self-respect. To redefine your value, you must raise your personal standards. This means looking at every area of your life, your health, your finances, your discipline, your integrity, and asking yourself if you're living up to the potential you know you have. If the answer is no, you don't dwell in guilt, you take action. You start keeping promises to yourself. You follow through on commitments, you set goals and actually work towards them. Over time, you become the type of man who trusts his own word, and that kind of self-trust radiates outwards. It's making others trust and respect you too. Your value is also defined by the boundaries you set. If you were the type to tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or being treated as an option, that has to change. Look, boundaries aren't about being cold or harsh. They're about recognizing what you deserve and refusing to accept less. When you allow poor treatment to continue, you teach people how to devalue you. When you enforce boundaries, you teach them that you are not afraid to walk away from situations that do not serve you. That strength is magnetic because it shows you are not controlled by fear of loss. Part of redefining your value is also about refining your presence. This isn't just about appearance, although taking care of yourself physically is important. It's about the way you speak, the way you move, energy you bring into a room. Are you confident without arrogance? Are you composed under pressure? Do people feel more inspired or more drained after spending time with you? These subtle qualities matter because they are the unspoken signals that communicate your value far more than anything you say. One of the most transformative parts of this process is realizing that you are not competing for her attention anymore. Instead, you are competing with the man you were yesterday. That shift removes desperation because your focus is no longer on winning someone over, it's on winning yourself over. You stop measuring your progress by her reactions and start measuring it by your own growth. This independence changes the dynamic entirely. When you are no longer seeking her validation, you become far more intriguing because she can sense that your happiness is self-generated, not dependent on her presence. Another critical piece is developing skills, passions, and experiences that enrich your life. The more fulfilled you are in your own journey, the less you feel the need to convince someone to be part of it. People are naturally drawn to those who are engaged with life, who are curious, who have something meaningful going on beyond relationships. When you live with purpose, you become more than just a man she once knew. You become a man worth knowing again. When you redefine your value, you also shift the balance of power in any future interaction. If she does come back, it won't be because you begged or proved yourself through desperation. It will be because she sees a man who is no longer the same, a man who commands respect simply by the way he lives. And in that moment, you will have the choice, not the need to decide if letting her back into your life aligns with the standards you've built for yourself. That's the ultimate transformation. Moving from being someone who fears rejection to being someone who chooses what and who is worthy of their time and energy. When someone who once meant everything to you returns, the temptation is to greet them with open arms and act as if nothing happened. Your emotions will try to convince you that the very fact they came back means the story is over and the happy ending has arrived. This is where many people make a costly mistake. They allow their desire to have the person back to override their judgment, and they re-enter the relationship from a place of need rather than choice. When you operate from need, you are willing to overlook red flags, compromise your standards, and accept treatment that doesn't align with your worth. You can convince yourself that having them back at any cost is better than not having them at all. And in doing so, you set yourself up to repeat the same cycle that drove them away in the first place. Leading with choice instead of need, it begins with understanding that their return does not automatically make them entitled to a place in your life. Just because someone decides they want you again doesn't mean they have earned you again. The time they spent away from you was also a time where they made decisions, lived their life, and chose not to be with you. You have every right to evaluate whether their actions, their mindset, and their intentions align with the life you're building now. This is not about playing hard to get, it's about genuinely assessing whether their return adds value or simply fills a temporary emotional gap. When you lead with choice, and looks, you approach the situation from a position of strength. You know you've grown since they left. You have worked on your mind, your habits, your purpose, and your self-respect. You are no longer the person they walked away from, and that means you now operate with a higher set of standards. You are not afraid to say no if the terms of the relationship don't align with the man you have become. This doesn't mean being arrogant or dismissive. It means being discerning. It means valuing your time, your peace, and your energy enough to protect them from situations that could pull you back into old patterns. A man who leads with choice takes his time before making any decision about letting someone back into his life. He doesn't rush into emotional commitments simply because the opportunity presents itself. He observes, he listens, and he evaluates. He looks for consistency in actions, not just emotional confessions. Words are easy to speak when emotions are high, but actions reveal the truth over time. If her return is fueled by genuine appreciation for your growth and a desire to contribute to your life, it will show in her behavior. If it's driven by loneliness, boredom, or a temporary sense of regret, that will show too. Operating from choice also means remembering that you are not the only one being chosen. You are also doing the choosing. This mindset changes the entire dynamic of the interaction. Instead of thinking, I hope she stays, you begin thinking, do I want her here? That single shift removes desperation and creates balance. You are not auditioning for a place in her life. You are deciding if she has earned a place in yours. That subtle change in perspective radiates confidence and makes you far more attractive because you are not hanging your value on her decision. Leading with choice also requires that you protect the life you've built in her absence. You've invested time into becoming stronger, healthier, and more grounded. That progress should not be compromised just to accommodate someone's return. If being with her means sacrificing your growth, losing focus, or lowering your standards, then no matter how strong your feelings are, answer has to be no. This level of self-respect sends a message to her and to yourself that you value your life's direction more than you value temporary emotional satisfaction. When you make decisions from a place of need, you risk losing yourself in the process. When you make them from a place of choice, you ensure that any relationship you enter into is built on mutual value, not dependency. That's the kind of foundation that creates lasting attraction and respect. If she comes back and sees that you are not desperate to have her, rather willing to allow her in only if it aligns with your life's vision, she will recognize that you are a man who cannot be swayed by emotion alone. And in that recognition, she will understand the depth of your worth, not because you told her, but because you lived it. When a woman walks away, it's natural to feel the pull to chase, to prove, to convince her that she made a mistake. The truth is, her decision isn't the end. It's a mirror reflecting the version you she saw at that moment. Your job isn't to beg for her return. It's to become the man she should never have left in the first place. That means mastering your emotions instead of letting them master you. It means elevating your life in every area, your health, your career, mindset, so that your growth becomes undeniable. It means letting silence speak for you, allowing space for curiosity to grow instead of smothering it with constant contact. It means redefining your values so that you no longer measure yourself by her approval, but by the standards you set for yourself. And finally, it means leading with choice, not need, knowing that if she comes back, it's because she fits into the life you've built, not because you need her to complete you. The man you become during this time will not only change how she sees you, but more importantly, change how you see yourself. And once you see your own worth clearly, you will never again settle for less than you deserve from her or from anyone. Thank you for listening. I hope these words stay with you long after this moment ends. Remember, your worth is not determined by who stays or who leaves, but by the man you choose to be every single day. Stay strong, stay grounded, keep moving forward. Thank you and take care.